So let me ask you, I think you're going to the next question. What are the major components and why did you choose them? Or just give us a brief description of what is in the program.
Okay. Well, we started writing down all the values. And we just brainstormed from everywhere and, different ones. And there's a lot of values that are very similar. One word can, there's several different words sometimes that convey a similar thing. And we wrote down all of these things and so on. And it was just this big group of values. And so we said, we've got to organize this somehow. This is just too nebulous. All of these things. And so I says, is there any way that we can group these together, somehow get them organized, put the similar kinds of ones together? And that's when we started having these different groups, the religious ones, the biblical ones, the individual ones, the relationship ones, the time ones, and so on and so forth.
So is that what Rebirth stands for?
And that's how the name Rebirth finally came along, is that it was the first letter of each of those different sections. That's what the Rebirth thing. And so we kind of thought that was interesting. We talked about that. Some people says, well, Rebirth kind of sounds like an Eastern religion of some sort, where you're coming back. And I said, well, let's imbue it with the special Adventist values and so on, because this is the kind of thing we want to change people, We want them to experience, our students to experience that rebirth experience. And so we grouped them into these different groups. So that kind of got my head around it, And those groups, as we looked at them, we realized that those really answered some core questions of life, really. They answered core questions of life, and for people as they consider those things, as young people, even adults, as they consider these things, if they can answer those questions well, from a Christian perspective, you could do it. So once we kind of got that around our heads around that part, then we said, okay, what kinds of things now can we support those values? How can we teach them? And so we started collecting. I'm going to get it out here so I can make reference to it. We started collecting information about each of those values and kind of putting them together. And we decided that we would. Our original thought was to kind of create boxes for each of these values, and for each value we would have this box, and then each of the teachers could take the boxes that we had and they could, put stuff into it. And one of the boxes was defining this value from a child's perspective. What does honesty mean? What does justice mean? Or, some of these values that we hold, but what does that mean to a third grader or a teenager or a different age group? So we thought, well, as we come up with good examples of that, good definitions of that from a child's standpoint of view, we can we'll kind of throw that into the box, so to speak. And then artwork. I don't know if you've enjoyed going through magazines and stuff and looking for pictures that you can use in your class. Well, we thought, well, wouldn't it be neat if we could collect artwork to teach these values, both the right and the wrong rollout of it. And we would just do that. Well, we realized that some of these values were very, very hard to find illustrations of. And we found a young man who liked to draw and stuff like that. And so we said, well, draw us a drawing for each of these values, and he came up with concepts and stuff. And they've been quite popular. I've had several people want to borrow these in order to illustrate that. And then music. What about songs that refer to these values? Talk about them. We started collecting songs to do it. And I hope, as you go through these different ones that I'm mentioning, I hope that you'll catch the vision and not think about this as a fixed asset. But this is a box that you can add to. When you find another good song that illustrates this one, you throw it in the box. And when you find a good picture that can illustrate this, throw it in the box. And also life applications. What does it mean to be unselfish? Give me some life applications, because kids are tangible. They think in concrete. They don't think in abstract definitions. So, honesty means, to do this. When somebody, when you find something that doesn't belong to you or whatever, what does honesty mean? What does these different things mean? So we began to collect life applications, and some of these have more life applications than others. The challenge, again, this is not intended to be a fixed resource asset. I hope that you will vision this as boxes that you can add to for your own thing, because hopefully you'll be doing these kinds of things well into the future and be looking for your own ways of teaching these values. So this is just kind of a starting place. And then we collected Bible passages that referred to the values. And there's more. Again, this is just a start. And spirit prophecy quotations that illustrated or reinforced the value. And then reinforcing stories. Stories from all the Bible books, all the story books that we had, the Uncle Arthur's bedtime stories, or, any storybooks we could find that had illustrations of these different things. In fact, this one was such a challenge that in the end, we actually made our own basal readers with stories in them, because we wanted to teach the values that we wanted Adventist kids to know. And so we made the Daystar readers. I don't know, at some point you can show them the Daystar readers. And those were intended specifically to teach those values, those Adventist values. So that's kind of the reinforcing stories here, and to pick it up on that. And then student activities, kinds of things that we can do in order to, stick the values. And then links to the curriculum. Now, links to the curriculum is kind of the knee-jerk integration of faith and learning. You're teaching this subject area, and you think, oh, there's got to be a Bible text that illustrates this, or there's got to be a story that in the Bible or somewhere that will illustrate this lesson that we have. So that's the most common one. And I think we gave a few illustrations of that, but this, and again, I think you guys are so creative. What is here is just kind of starting down the road for this. But what I'm saying, by these illustrations here, by these different things, what I'm trying to tell you is that there are lots of ways that you can go about integration, faith, and learning, not just links to the curriculum. There's lots of ways to fill it out, to make it interesting. And then other resources. This may be a really good book on the subject, or a video, or a Your Story Hour radio program that teaches this value, or whatever. So you want to look at those. And then finally, evaluation.